Welcome to our presentation. Today we are going to discuss changing the eating behavior of red meat. Here's our agenda. Firstly, we will talk about the background of red meat and linkage between red meat consumption and health issues. Then move on to the details of our intervention program and certain limitations and suggestions. Finally, we will conclude what we have discussed today. Now we will present how popular red meat is.
Red meat generally refers pork, beef, and lamb. It has high content of myoglobin in the muscles that gives the meat its appear as red color. It contains essential nutrients such as protein or dietary iron, and it can be divided into processed or unprocessed meat. Processed meat is meat that has been preserved by curing or salting, such as beef jerky, salami, or bacon. Meat that has undergone mechanical processing such as slicing or cutting is considered as unprocessed meat. Processed meat has linked with diseases like cancer and chronic diseases. In Hong Kong, a survey revealed that people aged 18 to 64 reported that they consumed 4 tails or more of red meat a day, increased from 16.1% in 2009 to 18% in 2016. About 1/4 of them reported that they have consumed more than 6 tails of meat on average per day. Hong Kongers ate about 66 grams of red meat and 33 grams of processed meat per person per day. It exceeds world average red meat intake, which is 50 to 100 grams per person per day. So people living in Hong Kong did consume a relatively high amount of red meat. Another survey discovered that 20% of respondents reported they eat more than 160 grams of red meat every day. The average consumption of red meat was 270.1 grams during hot pot and barbecue. However, the American Institute for Cancer Research recommends that no more than 510 grams of red meat should be consumed per week, which is 73 grams per day. And worldwide, according to the article published in 2011, it compared meat consumption over different nations and cities. Hong Kong has the highest daily meat product consumption, including livestock and seafood, which was almost 700 grams. And also, Hong Kong has a high per capita pork consumption, which was almost 400 calories per person per day. So why people in Hong Kong have great appetite in meat consumption, especially red meat? In Chinese mindset, meat is the main source of nutrition. And also, main course in Chinese cuisine, there's always meat. Choices meat dishes are much more than choices of vegetable dishes and menus. And also, the price of meat and vegetables are similar in local restaurants. So Hong Kongers are more inclined to opt for meat as their main choice. In recent years, a lot of restaurants were newly opened and specified in meat consumption, such as hot pot buffets or Korean barbecue. And also, they offer a discount to consumers who order large amount of meat so that they can eat a lot.
However, there has been quite a large amount of research evidence showing that excessive consumption of red meat and processed meats have negative effect on our health and put those eaters at a higher risk of developing specific health problems. Well, first of all, consumption of red meat and processed meat is positively associated with non-cancer risk. And second, the higher risk of cardiovascular disease is also found associated with consumption of processed meat. And lastly, the higher intake of red meat was more likely to be linked with greater risk of metabolic syndrome, which also put people at further risk of developing cardiovascular disease. Consuming red meat and processed meat have different health outcomes for males and females. Among males, those who eat more red meat are more likely to get pancreatic cancer, and those who have high consumption of red and processed meats are more likely to develop type 2 diabetes, partly because in processed meats there is a higher content of nitrates, which is positively associated with type 2 diabetes. While for the females, those who ate the most red meat in adolescence or early adulthood had an increased risk of developing breast cancer later in life. And in fact, the risk added by each serving a day increment in red meat intake is higher during the adolescence than during the early adulthood, which makes it even more justified to start the behavior change intervention program early in our life. And women do not have to be vegetarian or give up red meat. It's just definitely better for their health to reduce the daily intake of red meat. Regarding the local situation, the consumption of red or processed meat is considered as a risk factor to colorectal cancer, which is listed as the second commonest cancer among Hong Kong population according to the Department of Health in Hong Kong. So we've designed this intervention program first to inform the participants the risks of consuming too much red and processed meat and hopefully to increase their personal vulnerability to such risk. And second, we want to motivate the behavior change and more importantly to provide our participants with some practical plans so as to shorten the delay period between the participants making the decision to change their behavior and their actual engagement in that behavior change.
The target participants for this program will be university students interested in increasing their health by changing their diet or those aware of the negative effects of red and processed meat and therefore want to make a change in their diet. Such reasons for our choice to target university students would be because we want to change behavior as early as possible, but with people's consent in order to change habitual eating behaviors and to prevent the consequences of red and processed meat. But also university students show the most receptivity to health changes due to the higher education and more awareness of the effects. Therefore, we will recruit 25 participants to participate in the program through different social media platforms such as Instagram, Facebook, and the university website. The program consists of a 21-day semi-veggie challenge in which the participants will progressively reduce the amount of red and processed meat consumed throughout the 21 days. Participants will also participate in different activities to aid in their reduction of meat consumed. Within the 21 days, the participants will be given a goal to reach every week of the amount of red and processed meat they can consume. Prior to the commencement of the challenge, the daily intake of red and processed meat will be measured and used as a reference point of the challenge in which each week they reduce the amount of meat they would normally eat in a day. In week 1, the goal is set to eat around 70% of the processed and red meat they would normally eat. In week 2, it would be 40%, and week 3, only 5% of their normal intake. However, these are rough guidelines set for the participants, allowing them to monitor their own intake and relying on participants' own motivation and intention to attain each week's goal. In week 1, participants will meet for an introduction session on the first day, following by a phone intervention on day 4. However, throughout the week, participants will receive text message reminders to stay on track, and participants are also required to post their daily meals on the photo sharing platform app. During the group meeting, participants will be introduced to the challenge and the app and given instructions on how to participate in it and what to expect throughout the weeks. After the information section, the participants will be split into 5 groups of 5, with each group assigned 1 mentor. The mentors will inform them that they are here to provide support and guidance when needed and will follow up with them during the phone interventions and the later meetups. The mentors in the program have been trained to be able to guide them through the group discussions and answer any inquiries or concerns. The session will also have cooking classes in which a chef is invited to teach them how to cook some simple recipes that do not contain red or processed meat, allowing them to incorporate it into their home meals. Lastly, at the end of the session, participants will have a sharing session with some guest speakers who don't eat red or processed meat, where they share their experience with transitioning and how it affected their lives, and also why they chose to change their diet. Throughout the sharing session, participants are free to voice out their questions and concerns. After the group meeting has ended, participants will start the challenge of reducing their red and processed meat to 70%. Throughout the 21-day challenge, participants will receive text message reminders every day as a reminder to reduce the amount of red and processed meat, as well as phone interventions with their mentors will occur on the 4th day of the week as a way to check in with the participants and allow them to discuss their thoughts and feelings, as well as their difficulties that they have faced during the week. The phone intervention was also a way to provide them with encouragement, which would increase their self-affirmation and also help them to create a plan of action when facing difficult situations. As for the app, one of the functions in the app is a healthy little helper, which provides reminders of how well they are doing and how much bad fat they have avoided today. Similar to the Tamagotchi, participants will need to take care of their avatar by taking photos of their daily meals with the reduction of the red and processed meat consumed. If they do not take a photo or it does not indicate that they have reduced their amount, the avatar will display health issues such as acne, bloating, sickness, and etc. So therefore, the message will encourage participants to be responsible for their own health.
Talking about the concept behind Healthy Little Helper, prospect theory will be applied as it involves gain and loss frame statements. Prospect theory is a psychological theory of choice under conditions of risk and uncertainty that people may experience gains and loss as the outcome of their choice. For the Healthy Little Helper, participants could expose to gain frame statements through informative reminders such as nutrition values of good food they consumed and number of cows they saved because of no beef diet. So it encouraged participants to pursue healthier eating behavior.
In the beginning of the challenge, a photo sharing platform in the form of an app will be introduced to participants. Throughout the 21 days, they will be encouraged to post photos of their meals to the platform and share with other participants as proof of meeting weekly goals and motivations for peers. Those who actively contributed to the platform with meals that fit with weekly goal will be rewarded a small prize in the week after.
Considering the concept behind photo sharing in social media, social cognitive theory and operant conditioning will be based on. One of the components in social cognitive theory is social sanctions, which refer to behavior that fulfills social norms and gains positive social reactions. The photo sharing in social media makes use of peer influence to enhance social learning because participants will receive likes on their posts showing their behavior is positively commented. Moreover, using substantial rewards to encourage or discourage certain health behaviors under the principle of operant conditioning, aiming at making small steps towards behavior change. So our intervention will provide weekly rewards to active participants in photo sharing. Now let's move on to week 2.
Schedule for week 2 is basically the same as week 1, except the weekly goal, in which participant has to cut down their red and processed meat consumption to only 40% of their normal intake. Small prize for social media check-in will be given in class and continue for the second round. Phone and text messages reminders continued throughout the week outside class. As for the final week, participants will be challenged to consume only 5% of their normal red or processed meat intake. Everything else continue. By the end, there will be final group meetup to conclude the 21 days challenge. So here is the outline of in-class activities for week 2 and 3. We will have reward time, cooking demonstration, sharing by professionals, and dinner with mentors. In week 2 and 3 classes, registered doctor and nutritionist will be invited to give sharing. The aim is to inform the participant about the health risks of processed and red meat consumption. Content will include debunks of myths about nutritional value of red meat and dairy products, for example, the excess hormone and antibiotics injected in cows and pigs. Nutritionists will also help participants identify tricks used in food packaging and provide guidance on reading food labels. Introducing benefits and nutritional value of whole grain plant-based diet is another key element in the sharing.
Talking about the concept behind professional sharings, attribution theory will be utilized for further explanation. Attribution theory proposed that internal factors result in more long-lasting behavior than short-lasting behavior resulting from external factors. Hence, health promotions that target and remind people of their personal responsibilities to complete health behaviors are effective in evoking change. The professional sharings about the health risk of red meat-based diet remind participants to be responsible for their own eating behavior, which induce more internally motivated behavior change.
During classes, there will be cooking demonstrations of a variety of meal options to cater different needs. Meal prep plan advice will be given to help them get ready for the week. Craving substitutes like false meat, vegetarian bacon will also be recommended.
Now for the concept of cooking demonstration. Implementation intentions suggest that it is better to prepare for certain circumstances when we are acting out, so that our actions will likely lead to desired goal behaviors and subsequent attainments. Let's say if situation X occurs, then I will do Y. Having meals planned out in advance reduce mental load and resist temptation during challenge, which may help participants stick to the goal. Now let's continue on final group meeting.
In the final group meet, participants will share their feelings and experience during the process. Final prize will be given to everyone who successfully completed the 21 days challenge. Participants will be offered an optional follow-up phone intervention to help those who want to continue adopting the new diet or simply want to receive regular health and diet advice. The follow-up aims at sustaining the health behavior change.
Now to talk about the incentives. First of all, the weekly prizes will consist of coupons to vegetarian stores and cafes, such as the Green Common. The final big prize for completing the challenge will be recipe books and a free access to a cooking course, which will be given to them later. Now for an example recipe of what will be shown during the challenge in the classes, this is nabemono, a Japanese hot pot dish. Originally, it would call for beef in the recipe. However, to keep in line with our goals in this program, the sliced beef would be turned into sliced chicken. Now on how to get the attention of people, we will be collaborating with university canteens to devise menus that use less red meat and fewer processed meat products inside their meals. We will also put up posters in universities and office pantries with information on red and processed meats and their effects on our health. We will also set up a day every month where no red meat or processed foods will be served in the cafeterias. This is to raise awareness and to wean people off of red meat and processed foods. We will also offer discounts to people who join the programs through referral. We will also be providing post-program maintenance. So this is to sustain the healthy behavior change among participants. These will include phone interventions if they choose to continue to follow such diets. They will also engage with canteens to change their behavior. For the phone intervention, it'll be the same as the phone intervention during the program. It'll be providing self-affirmation and implementation intentions twice per month. We'll also co-organize with canteens a zero red meat day, when students are encouraged to choose food without red meat. That's not to say that we won't be facing any difficulties. We expect that one of our difficulties will be that participants may drop out in the middle of the program. It is also difficult to accurately monitor participants' daily consumption of red and processed meats. It's mostly based on participants' self-control and self-monitoring. Now, to tackle some of these difficulties, we would encourage participants to join the intervention with friends as partners to motivate each other. We would also encourage participants to tell their friends and family members that they have joined the intervention so that they may ask them to help supervise them throughout the challenge. Participants are also encouraged to share any relevant problems or challenges with the professional staff during the phone intervention or during classes so that they may help them solve these problems at an early stage with more adaptive ways.
Here comes to concluding statements. The continuity of global meat supply calls into question that there is an increasing pressure on worldwide livestock sector in response to greater production because of rising demand for meat and dairy products as well as the growing global population. In the meanwhile, we should concentrate on the adverse aspects of large meat production to climate change, particularly beef and sheep meat. For example, the increasing feeding of cows increased generation of methane, which is one of the global warming gases. Besides, the agriculture sector is the world's largest user and steward of natural resources such as land and water, and livestock production accounts for 18% of global greenhouse gas emissions. So what should we do? Do we need to become a vegetarian? The point is that we are not urging people to become a vegetarian immediately or give up eating red or processed meats forever. Instead, try to decrease the daily amount of intake. Reducing red meat consumption is obviously a feasible and manageable way for every single of us to healthier well-being under such a highly polluted, stressful lifestyle city like Hong Kong. And it could also be a way to think of doing good to the environment and saving the natural world. That's the end of today's presentation, and here's just our references. Thanks for listening. Hope you enjoy it.